the ACES Optimus Show with your host, Dr. Craig Morris.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Craig Morris with ACESOptimus.com. We're brought to you by Advanced Clinical Educational Seminars. That's ACES4me.com, ACES4me.com. We're excited to share our 2026 course schedule. You can find it there. And if any questions, just let us know. We hope to see you at some of our courses. Today's very special guest is Dr. Tom Bakman. He is incredible. You have a lot to learn on the business of healthcare and also the exciting growth of one of our major chiropractic educational institutions in the United States. Here's today's podcast. Enjoy. I'm very excited today to welcome today's guest, Dr. Tom Bakman, a longtime colleague, a dear, dear friend, and somebody who we can learn a lot from. First, we're going to learn some about him. So, first of all, welcome, Tom.
Craig, thank you so much. This is exciting.
You know, we go trying to organize today's podcast and thinking about topics. I realized that our typical 45-minute conversation could easily go into 2 and 3 days and 45 minutes. So I'll say right from the get-go that I'm going to invite you back sometime down the road because we can only touch some key topics today, and also because of your professional life, your activities, and your explosive curiosity, capacity, and accomplishments. There'll be new stuff, lots of new stuff, even the next time around.
That would be fun. Thank you.
Yeah. So first, I would have to say that we were introduced when, and I remember it very well, when you walked up to me about 20-something years ago when I was...
20, come on.
I know, right? When I was working, I was honored to be an officer in a group of medico-legal chiropractors in California involved in workers' compensation, personal injury, and this very handsome young man comes up to me and introduces himself and said, "Hi, I'm Tom Bakman from Fresno." And then that was the beginning of what became great friendship. And our group at that time was called the Academy of Forensic and Industrial Chiropractic Consultants. And we were really helping to have a unified group growing the profession in med legal issues in California. I was vice president at that time. And with your support, with your brilliant work, you ended up becoming an officer and then the vice president in AFIC when I was assumed the position, the onerous position of president, and then followed me in that position. And that only just led to this unbelievable journey afterward.
It's crazy. I was thinking about this and I knew you'd tell that story, right? Because you remember it. I really don't, but I know that it's true. And I don't know where your sense of time comes from, but I think it was in the 90s and we're in 2026 now. So yeah, 20 plus years.
Yeah, 20 plus is safe. That's true. And at that time when we first met, you were, as I mentioned, from Fresno, California, but you were involved in a multidisciplinary clinic, a practice that included both chiropractors and physicians. And that was called Firm Associates. So tell us a little bit about your interest in multidisciplinary care and just very briefly about that initial experience, because that was only a springboard for future activities and future growth.
Yeah, I learned a ton from that. Going to school as a chiropractor, I always viewed getting the degree and the license as a ticket to the healthcare provider game. And in Fresno, my family's been there since 1929. So I had a lot of community roots. And it was like, what problem can be solved? And so it was the workers' compensation. So I was in private practice at the time, and I was just adjusting people. I think the largest day I ever had was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I saw 82 patients. And I'm like, I was a young guy, handled it really well. But it really reflected me to look at, there's got to be something more. These people are getting adjusted. There seemed to be a little bit of dependency on care. And what could we do to get them activated so into a rehab model? And so uh, the gentleman who also became a really good friend, Dr. Mark Molthen, he was in that office that I had taken, and he came by. And he goes, I just wanted to check. I heard a lot of good things about you, wanted to introduce myself. And we became really good friends. And he was very progressive. He's uh, one of the largest chiropractic families in the world, uh, from Terry Schroeder to the DeCaesars to the Molthens to all of them. And we got to brainstorming and saying, if we put the manual therapy from chiropractic together with the active rehab model, what would happen? So there was a gathering, I'll make this short, um, where we had, I think, six chiros come together, and we started dreaming to say, why don't we build this office that had the rehab center and have trainers and PTs and just put the care together for the benefit of the patient. So all that being said, as we came down through the planning um, to fund it, it was just him and me. And so we put it together and just started seeing patients. And we said, what model would benefit from this the most? And it was the workers' compensation model, not from the attorney side, but from the employer side. So at that point, we had connections to people with large businesses and in the insurance industry. And they said, no one's going to take you seriously unless you have the medical part to it also. So we integrated it in 1993. We did the corporate structure. We put a ACMED urgent care center in the office and hired physicians. And we started making protocols where they would see the injured worker, apply care, and then if in the triage model, they would come in and go to rehab, and then I would see them and document, and that's where AFIC was really important to me as far as documenting where they were functionally and progress, and I became a pretty good report writer. And so it really took off, and we started competing against the Concentras and the US Health. And yeah, it was a big learning time for it. So yeah, it was fun.
Yes, and it was called Firm Associates. It was an acronym, right? For
Yes,
firm.
Functional Industrial Rehabilitation Medical Associates, firm.
Yes. So then you were there for a number of years, but then you, I think, became anxious to go to a bigger market, a bigger area, and moved southward and down to Orange County, California, and then started to move and established again, got involved with multidisciplinary care on different combinations. So just tell us briefly about those experiences, what you learned, and kind of how that you think about how this helped you to grow in your understanding of both the clinical side and also the business corporate marketing side, because we don't go into that in school, and yet it really becomes increasingly critical. And your success along those lines, from my perspective and from an outsider's perspective, has been phenomenal over these past X number of years.
Yeah, it's really unpacking that and say, why did I do that and how did we fill the practice? And back to the Fresno practice with firm, um, it was since we were competing against the multi state national companies, um, they started picking on us and saying, well, that medical group's owned by chiropractors. And so we're like, man, this is crazy. And I want to give you a term that I coined. All of healthcare to this point, when you're in the industry of healthcare, is permission care. You've got to like get permission, whether it's uh, workers' compensation and you're asking for treatment, or whether it's PPO, it's you got to comply. And so I'm the type of guy I don't like anyone telling me what to do. And I want to do the right thing. So what we did at firm is we actually hired an insurance actuary and said, hey, how can we help these larger employers? How can we make their premiums go down? And just a little background if the people watching this don't understand, workers' compensation insurance is kind of like auto insurance. The better you are and the type of car you drive, the lower your insurance, or if it can go the other way too. So the key factors at helping the employer was resolution of the case and low disability and low litigation. So my business partner at that time, Mark Moulton, we actually sent him back to, was it University of Michigan? And he went through the ACMED certification. And we came back and we started really having open communication with the injured worker and saying, hey, look, if you need to get resolved, because the other side of this is it doesn't pay you well if you ride this to a disability. And so that really helped. And we started seeing what we could do to get them actively involved and get them to take ownership of resolving their injury. And we worked with the employers too, and we were able to compete then.
So then, if I understand what you're saying, you taught the patient how to take better care of themselves and resolve their condition, and also show them that it really wasn't worthwhile trying to get a disability in the long term financially. And at the same time, you reduced the employer's risk, which impacted their insurance premiums.
Absolutely. And then what we would do is then we got the brokers for the work comp. They caught on, and these guys will track a company trying to get it into their book of business for years. And so what that enabled them to do was go to the type of companies that had a high injury rate. And then they would write the policy with a stipulation that they had to use our clinic. And so they could drive results that way. And it was pretty successful. It really worked well on it.
So then you moved down to Orange County. I know
I
you worked
did.
for a time in an orthopedic clinic, and then you partnered up with a physical medicine rehabilitation pain management specialist in Orange County. And I remember during those years, you were working even more and more to understand how to communicate, work with, and explain with insurance companies the benefits of a rehabilitation model, and also to make sure that you were getting properly reimbursed for the time that you were putting in, the quality of the service, which I felt I realized later then allowed you to springboard even into your next ventures.
Totally. It was the first step back into Orange County was with an orthopedic surgical group that we created, and I owned a third of it. And so we did the model. We were doing workers' compensation and PPO, and it was going well. So I went from there into a medically supervised rehabilitation clinic where the partner was a physician, a physiatrist who was extensively trained in sports medicine. We had on site a surgical suite with a video x-ray, a C-arm, where we did pain procedures. And so we would have these people come in and we could give them full service of care between the medical, the chiro, the trainer, and PT.
Right. And then that gradually with time, as you learned, as you grew, then it was time for you to branch out into a little different model, expand it out into what I would call more towards a functional medicine model in another clinic, but you would describe it a little differently, I believe, and that you could explain how that ultimately led for you to be in your current clinic that is I know growing phenomenally and doing very well.
Yes. So what was going on in the inside of me was we had a busy clinic in the physical med rehab clinic, and you had these people that had um, a high level of pain, were athletes that were very functional. But with a medical model, we would do a pain procedure in the spine. And we would try to figure out what was the pain generator. Was it the back of the spine, the facet? Was it the disc? Was it the nerve root? What was it? And so that was really helpful because what you thought was disc pain off of an MRI finding wasn't. It was a facet pain. And we could go real deep into that, but that's not the point of this discussion right now. And so what was happening, I had an ex-Olympic athlete that had been injured. He was a cyclist, big guy, 6'3", ripped surfer, in a lot of pain. He raced with Lance Armstrong. And so his pain would get so high because he was so functional. He was on a fentanyl patch. And I go, there's got to be a better way. And so I started digging in, and in my mind, I started looking at systems. And in that model, if we had a pie chart and divided it in half, and let's say that the right half is all of what we do from a neuromusculoskeletal. That's the chiro, the PT, the orthopedic, the neurosurgeon, all of that. No one reflexively is looking on the other side at the physiology. It's much more popular now at decreasing inflammation, getting a surge in growth factors so that the whole body could heal. So that I wanted to change the practice and bring systems-based medicine in. You can call it functional to get these people to resolve. And I just met too much resistance. So at that time, fortunately, I said, I'm going to do this on my own. I'd saved enough money. I didn't want a bank to be my partner. And I bankrolled the first functional medicine group that went for 10 years. And I learned a ton of
And now,
systems-based medicine.
and now you've taken that, rolled that over into Helixona. Tell us about that.
Yes. So I wanted to do more. And I guess you called it some type of curiosity. I guess that's kind of how I'm made. It's like, how does this work, right? Why aren't these people getting resolved? And you'd have patients that are doing the best of functional medicine, conventional medicine combined, but they're not getting better. So they're searching for other modalities to complement that into the energetics, whether it's red light, whether it's cold laser, whether it's Rife machine, whether it's you name it, things that are not covered by the insurance company. And so it's like they're getting better when you put these things together specifically for that patient. And also the key thing to it is the sequence of care for that patient, and that's not all the same. And so that's where Helixona comes in, and that's where the acronym came from because it emphasizes the best of conventional medicine and the things that have been proven to help them recover. I got a great analogy this last week, and I just love to share it with you, right?
Great.
And I'm not going to get political, but I there was reports in the news that um, when we went into Venezuela with the Rangers, that we first heard that from the other side, they go, these guys came down, they were like supernatural. They did some device that energetically put out where it disabled us, and we're bleeding from our eyes and our ears, and 30 men took on thousands of other men. Okay. Uh, it's been called the Havana effect, but they were using frequency to disable. And I thought, well, there it is. If that's so powerful to use in warfare, why aren't we using it in medicine for the good? And people can grasp that better. It's not woo-woo and it's not just fringe anymore. There's long-term standing evidence. It needs to be studied more deeply, but you put the combination of them together and you get a therapeutic stacking that accelerates the healing.
Very good. And uh, where do you see it going? Where do you see it growing? And I do you have or do you plan to have expanded out to different specialties? I don't know if you have physiotherapists, physical therapists, or chiropractors as you grow into it, or other areas of medical specialty as your plans that you can discuss or share as far as your vision.
Absolutely. I can go there, but let's come back to the business part
Sure.
after this part too,
Okay.
because they go together parallel.
Great.
So right now, in bringing together the best of conventional that works and the energetics, we opened in July, so we're 6, 7 months out. We uh, we cash flowed at 6 months in, thank God. That's always the business side of me is when those lines cross, it's like, okay, we're there. And it's reiteration of the treatment and how to interact with a patient culturally, but also who are the team players? I mean, I was trained as a functional neurologist. I've not taken the board. I didn't feel I needed to, but I studied the nervous system pretty extensively and the effects of illness on it, how you can pick up on it, the subclinical findings. And that can be a whole nother topic. But it really what we're not getting right now is the neuromuscular training once we get the inflammatory, the infection, the growth factor surged again, and we get them better. We encourage them. But someday I would like to see where we have the whole continuum of care with someone that does the work that you do and trained and bring it all together because that's a beautiful model. That is the whole person healthcare model that's been coming out of the VA in 2023.
Interesting. So let's go back to the business model. Talk a little bit more.
Yeah, and if you're a chiropractor or a PT or an orthopedic surgeon out there, the reimbursement on it, they just hammer on it. They just try to pick on it and they don't give a fair reimbursement for it. And so in this model, we are in the PPO model. Um, there's a difference between being in network and out of network. And I'm doing half and half right now for a reason. Um, the in-network patients, they see it, they come in, great. The out-of-network, I don't have a contract with the insurance company. Therefore, the legalities of me doing something they don't like and them coming back on me to take money back, they can't do it. Now,
Because you haven't broken a contract.
that's exactly right. And so with the out of network, if that insurance company is going to have a premium and offer out of network, if the patient is demonstrated to have medical necessity, they got to pay for it. There's no question. Now, it may take you a while to get it, and that's a lifetime of learning on how to align the needs of the patient, the documentation with the right physician, and with the insurance company. At the other practice, Blue Shield came in to audit us, and they said, "We're paying you a lot of money." And I was in network with them. And I said, "I know." And they do their data analytics of the financials and go, "You guys we're paying you way too much money." And I said, "I know." And they go, "Why?" I said, "Because look at our patient population and look at the comorbidities. They have failed the standard of care that you've provided to them through their specialties on your panel. We're cleaning it up." And so it went from a threat of that we're going to audit you and take money back to they out of curiosity. And we were in a 2-year program with them, Health Reimagined, and Zoom calls weekly. And what they found out, they tracked 125 of their high risk clients through our office, and not one of them was hospitalized. And they couldn't figure it out. And so they said they actually paid us 25% more during that time and extended office visits.
So
And
you went from being essentially questioned and prepared for undergoing an audit because they didn't understand what you were doing to essentially becoming consultants once they understood why you were doing what you were doing.
it's not for someone with a weak stomach.
Yeah. Faint of heart, not for them.
You know? And so became friends with them.
Yes.
And they're like, "What do you discuss in an extended visit?" And I really had to think about it. And I came back and I said, "You know what? Every time you meet with them, it's a book that is telling a story, and you're looking for a new perspective, clinically from the doctor or understandably from the patient. And you're seeing what that means and you're adjusting the care." And so what they thought they could do is take some of their providers and their panel and pay them 25% more to get the same result. I said, "You guys can't. It's it is a different mindset and clinical skill set."
Yes.
And it was really, really interesting. Some of them came in as patients from Blue Shield, and it was an awakening for me to say, they're always going to look at you and want money back, and they're going to have a negative confirmation bias, like you're doing something excessive or wrong.
Yes.
And so we just had to weather the storm and tell the truth and help them understand that insurance reimbursement isn't just about one visit at a time. It's taking that patient from one point to the other point of what you're attempting to do.
Yes. Yes. But you're making a good point from insurance mindset, typical mindset that has been in the industry for decades. I had a patient who was a defense attorney for a large insurance company, auto insurance. And she was in a terrible accident where hit on the side. She was a passenger. Her head hit the windshield and smashed the windshield. And after that, she was left with some permanent damage, neurological damage. And she came to me and she was saying, we were taught that every claim is fraud. This was a long time ago. But that as a result, she started to feel that perspective as somebody who'd been really very badly injured with a head trauma. after that. And I never forgot that lesson. And I'm sure she remembered it better than me. But this is the mindset, and you have to understand that. And the other point that you're making, I think, from an insurance perspective, also, is it's a little bit confusing if you have physicians that have the same degree, may have the same specialty, then there's a general thought process that, well, they all follow the same criteria of their specialty. And so if you can, well, you should be able to then apply some of the same basic principles, for example, you were utilizing in your clinic for these other people with similar degrees and similar foundation. But it's a different, like you said, it's a different mindset. It's a different way of looking at things, and that's a stretch for them because in their industry they're already established in their mindset. Interesting.
It is. There's so many lessons to learn of going through that experience with it. And if if we're out there to help and solve a problem for everybody, okay, and not have an expensive hobby, you got to make money,
Yes,
right?
yes, got to be
And
proud.
yeah, it is. And I mean, that's kind of the principle behind it is you got to be mission and vision driven.
Yes. So I'd like to switch a little bit and redirect because I think our guests, our viewers, rather, have now a little bit of an idea that we have, a very unique and interesting, fascinating guest with us today, with you, Tom. And you've taken these unique gifts, this unique growth and understanding, even learning, going and studying neurology, studying medical legal issues, workers' compensation issues, and also a training, a multi-decade training of what I would call insuranceology,
Okay.
and then applying that into an overall business model. And you've taken those skills, and you were invited onto the board at what used to be called back in the day Los Angeles College of Chiropractic. That then, as the institution grew and updated, became Southern California University of Health Sciences, or what we lovingly call SCUHS within the profession in North America, which is located in Southern California. And then with your really heavily your direction, your input, and your teamwork with the entire board, you've then been honored to become the chairman of the board at SCUHS, at Southern California University of Health Sciences. Could you explain to us a little bit about um, the history um, with this, and also where the school is and what the vision is for the future?
Sure. I'll try to do my best to summarize it. It started off as a chiropractic college in 1911. And then as it's grown under the tremendous leadership of a friend of ours, Dr. John Scringe, he wanted to bridge the gap between chiropractic, musculoskeletal, and medicine. And it was mostly chiropractic at that time, chiropractors on the board. And then we started saying, if we're going to change this, we need to get diversity in the board. And so started recruiting from attorneys to CFOs to hospital administrators to people that run collectives, all of that from all over the country in all different walks, right? And applied, it had an acupuncture program that was a master's. That got up to a doctorate in Oriental medicine. And that was the strangest thing ever because the credentialing for the state, they didn't know what to do. They never had a doctorate in Oriental medicine. And so it was then again persistence and to get them to understand, and it kept its credential and is built on it. And then a physician assistant program, which was radical. What do you mean on the same campus of it's like the Hatfields and McCoys. the chiropractor and someone medical. I mean, it's just all made up. It's not.
That's
Everyone reads the same textbooks, right?
the facade. That was
It
the purpose
is.
of my book, right? Is that
Exactly.
we're all dedicated to the same patient.
Exactly. Your book is incredible about shielding the degrees. That was pretty progressive then, you know.
Thank you. I didn't,
And
but it
it's
wasn't. It was only, our patients. What else could we do to help patient? What else is there? What options do they have? What else can I do for them, or what else can somebody else do for them?
oh
And
yeah,
needed, and so I was curious. I think in that this was another one of our areas that where we aligned together and made us closer, and our both from a professional and a personal friendship standpoint is this idea of collaboration for the patient benefit early on.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm on the board. There was we made a strategic plan. We had the PA school, and then um, consolidation is the big name in high ed. If you look to the future, if you're a small single program institution, you're probably not going to be around. So you needed diversity. And so, all that being said, we started looking at the commonality in the people. And now uh, we're looking at multi-campus. By fall of this year, we will have one, two, three, four, five campuses and 36 programs. Okay.
In California.
No, uh, Arizona, Chicago, and San Diego.
Wow. So starting in Southern California as a single facility in Whittier, California,
Correct.
and now expanding by year end to 5 locations in 3 separate states.
Correct. Correct. And
Wow.
so there there's a lot of I'll call it neuroscience. You call it professional growth, call it what you will. But like you were saying, for you to do that book and shield the degrees, I'm just guessing that you had to have what I've learned integration, meaning that you can see the value in all the different players and you're not becoming tribal with one. And if you look in the literature and you look in the neuroscience, it's a higher functioning of who we are that can be developed. That we can take something that, normal people say these two don't go together and say, what if they could? And so we another time we can get further into that, but I do a lot of work personally on that. And it's made me better.
One quote that I made, I stated in the last chapter of my textbook, is that the greatest restrictions in life are generally self-imposed, and
No doubt.
that can be certainly utilized for the individual, but we also, as because we are so tribal as humans, and I at times I don't feel as though we're that far removed from anchovies in the school. And so as a result, we see groupthink and group attitudes, and they are so established, and that we have no idea that they even exist within our mindset because of that. For me, for example, you mentioned for my textbook, I wanted to make sure I was very fortunate to have so many distinguished
Oh
clinics
yeah.
in my agree to write for me.
The
Spine
only the only the
surgeons.
only one you didn't have was Moses.
Uh, yeah, it's tough to get in touch with and to contact. But if they wanted to find out where they were up in the front with all their degrees and affiliations. But
Yeah.
at the top of the book, there was just some people collaborating on a chapter and as part of as the growth as we worked our way through. But since it was edited by a chiropractor, I thought it was very important that they see that we could have somebody, for example, that was the head of the spine surgery fellowship program at UCLA, who would agree to be write for me and to be edited by me, and that I would serve as the editor for his work. And I thought that in itself was saying something, and it went seamlessly, and it worked. So that was 2006, but hopefully one little step along the way, because the chiropractic profession now we see in 2025 in its acceptance and its integration now compared to, when I started in 1982. But even when you started, I believe in about 1988, if I'm not mistaken, is night and day.
Real quick story on that.
Yeah.
This is back in the early 2000s. And I'm in a business where we're creating OCLINK. It was a medical provider network. It was a self-insured program we domiciled out of Arizona. And we needed to get the credential. Work comp had gone through a reform, and you needed a medical provider network, MPN. And so I was doing some consulting inside for Southern California Edison Power Department. I was there a half day a week. And the Teresa Muir, who headed the whole department, she said, I've got some friends that helped us get our own. Would you meet with them? I said, sure. So it was a couple, I won't say their names, but I'm down in Southern California. I met them for wine at the Balboa Bay Club. So I meet them, and we're talking about she would help us get the MPN, and just a great interaction like we're having this. And then she asked, she goes, where'd you go to school? What's your education? And I told her, and she goes, what's really interesting? If you told me that up front, I wouldn't listen to anything you said. And that was the prejudice. It's not there as much more, and you could attest to that. But back in the day, boy, it was like Hatfields and McCoys. You just didn't get along.
Yes, I think I've mentioned on a couple of examples on previous podcasts. But when I first started in practice, there was one orthopedic surgeon who would even accept a referral from a chiropractor in the Torrance region of Southern California, suburb region, LA suburb region, back then. And so I forged my own relationships one by one, and that was what was necessary for us to be able to help our patients more effectively. So that's what we did. No, it was just the way it was. So you just say, okay, that's the way it was. You just move forward, right?
I have this internal saying that don't moralize a preference. Back then, they were moralizing everything. And now it can just be a preference. It doesn't have to be a moral decision. And hopefully we're growing as people where we can embrace one another's differences and see them as a superpower, right?
So what I'd like to do now is circle back around. So now our audience is starting to get a pretty good idea of some of the accomplishments, some of the mindset of Dr. Thomas Bakman. And now what I'd like to look back and say, in retrospect, what were your drivers? I mentioned, I take into account that you were a bodybuilder when you were in your younger years. And I think that bodybuilding is one of those sports, because I think you were competitive in bodybuilding, that requires real discipline. And I'm curious to find out who were people that were great inspirations to you, and what were effects or actions in your life that drove you, that you felt, you know what, these are the things that now when I think about my personality and my accomplishments and the things I've done both for myself, but on behalf of my profession.
Yeah.
You know, what would you say were the foundational aspects that really, or events that really impacted your future, the things that built you?
It's really, really interesting. I mean, we can go on and on about that. But what I've learned about myself and looking at others is that sometimes our motivation can be injury driven, something we didn't get or had something done to us. But as we learn about that and embrace those and clean them up, you kind of discover who you are. And so now looking back of knowing more of who I am, I can see a pattern. I was always someone that had a very high autonomy. I've had every test done to me in the world. My favorite is Culture Index, and my autonomy is really high. And what that really means is I think in the future, and I want to have control over my own destiny. Now, the driver of that, um, is it because I don't want to deal with anyone else? Maybe in the beginning. But now it's shifted because this is a pretty cool thing that I can help solve a problem and help others grow. And that's the biggest thing I think I got from understanding that. From the bodybuilder, uh, I started working out and I was 14. My parents said, you can't go to the gym until you're 14. I said, okay. 14th birthday, I said, take me to the gym. Went to the gym and I would take the bus to it. And so this is 1987. Okay. The gyms were dirty. There was no women in there. I would see guys in the back putting needles in their butts with steroids. I didn't do it. And started working out. And all these guys were disciplined. They were disciplined in working out and disciplined with their diet. And it had the discipline, delayed gratification of not not eating everything you want. And I got the girl then. So the motivation maybe wasn't the best, but that skill set has been redeemed all throughout my life. It has helped serve me with it. And yes, I was at 19, I was teenage Western America, and there is a picture. You're not going to put it online, but it is good to look back on and reflect.
Right? But so early on, you realized, set a goal, take responsibility, accept the fact that your gratification will be delayed, not immediate, and then get to work.
That's right. That's right.
And when you talk about this high level of autonomy and autonomous aspect of your personality, you know, I see that as that of being a natural leader. And the fact, it's one thing for you to start your own company and to be at the helm of that company that you started. It's another for you to be voted by your peers to be the chairman, for example, of the board at SCUHS. That wasn't something that you dictated. That was something that I'm confident that the others look to you for. And so that's earned.
You nailed it. I've never had someone put it that way, but you're right. And I think at that stage of when this happened, I could see it as this is the platform I've been given, and not that, oh, yeah, I'm so great.
Yeah.
And then the most uh, amazing things I've had. One of the board members is a former hospital administrator. He's going to turn 80. He's worked with them all, Deepak Chopra and all of it. And so he's like a father figure, right? And he would call me and he said, I've never had a board chair like you on any of the boards I've ever sat on. And you know what? That means a lot to me. If he will tell me that and mean it, and it's very humbling, and I feel very fortunate.
Yes, and it's all well earned.
Thank you.
For me, I say that I've learned so much from all aspects of those involved in my professional life and my personal life, my friendships. And I have those that I consider to be former proteges, and I place you in that category. And but it's really what we are. If I think, and what our goal is to actually just be a propellant, so to speak, to just get them and do whatever we see their potential, we see their capacity, share with them and help them in any way we can, teach them whatever it is that we have to share, and then watch them zoom past us. And you've certainly done that in so many different ways, which I think this audience will understand very well today with the impact that you're having. So as we close up, I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and to share some of your history. And we have more to talk about in the future, but for the time being, we'll call this a day. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Craig.
If you're enjoying our content, please press the like button below. If you're interested in receiving our content in your social media feeds, press the subscribe button below. Quick thank you to the Prague School of Rehabilitation and Dynamic Neuromuscular Stabilization at rehabps.com. Thank you to the Great K, Mr. Kevin Weeks, and the Inside Edge at iehockey.com.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the ACES Optimus Show. Catch you on the next one.